You're listening to the Fan Club Podcast, where two polar opposites experience each other's fandoms for the very first time.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Fan Club Podcast. My name is Sarah.
This is Matthew.
And today is episode 25.
Yes, and it's the start of Wanda week.
Yep, and happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
And today we will be covering the first two episodes of Wandavision.
Yes.
It's kind of insane that we're here. Like, we've gotten to a point where, especially after getting to Infinity War and Endgame, we've really gotten to a point where, like, I don't really have a ton of spoilers anymore.
No, all the spoils, I mean, there will be coming up with all of, like, Phase 5 and Phase 6.
Yeah, but, like, the big spoilers were for, like, Endgame.
Mm-hmm. The big spoils.
Well, really, I think there were arguably more spoilers for Infinity War.
The only ones...
Other than Tony's death.
Yes, no one knew.
In case you missed it, the entire month of November, we are doing the TV shows, so Wandavision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, and then Hawkeye, and then Moon Knight.
Yes.
So
we'll be covering the other TV shows,
She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel,
in their respective orders with the movies. Just because there's some stuff, like with Ms. Marvel,
that's contingent on
Doctor Strange and the end of WandaVision.
Yeah, so for Wanda week, because there's more episodes, we're going to do it Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And then for the other ones, we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yes.
So you can enjoy a full week of hearing us talk.
Yes, you can either do it once a day or in one sitting.
Yeah.
The choice is yours. These will probably be...
slightly shorter episodes. I mean, they're TV show episodes.
Yeah, so they're like 35 minutes long.
But like, you know us, we like to ramble, so.
And we're not going to do this full spiel before every episode. We're just
I just wanted
introducing
to,
you guys to this.
because I know a lot of casual Marvel fans are big on the TV shows.
So we're doing WandaVision episodes 1 and 2 in the podcast's first episode.
Yes. Yeah, today we'll be covering episodes 1 and 2.
We're covering film in front of a live studio audience and don't touch that dial.
So the reason why we wanted to do it this way was because it's almost like they were broken up in decades a little bit.
Each episode was a new decade. So episode 1 was 50s, 60s, episode 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then modern day for the rest of it. And
I figured that the episodes would be too short just on their own, and it would last an eternity. They were released in 2021 and directed by Matt Shakman, who also did...
He did a couple episodes of Game of Thrones. He did It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Boys, Mad Men.
Did he do MCU stuff? Because I feel like we've heard his name before.
Because of Game of Thrones.
Probably. We haven't. I've been binge watching Game of Thrones lately, just because we've been watching House of Dragon, and I wanted to like rewatch Game of Thrones from the beginning.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the show starts off with a intro. I thought it was reminiscent of I Love Lucy, but it's apparently more closely resembling the Dick Van Dyke Show. You know that show way better than I
would
do.
say it would be more like I Love Lucy.
The second episode's intro is straight up Bewitched, but the first one...
I Love Lucy.
Because just the part where he like walks up to the door and faces through it and then drops her is very much Dick Van Dyke. Like, physical comedy of Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, but...
And, like, he phases through a chair, and, like, there's a shot of Dick Van Dyke, like, tumbling over an ottoman at one point.
So, it's a mixture of both. It's a good mixture of both.
I think they do a really good job in this show of, like, representing the era at hand's, like, certain TV shows, but it's not, like, ripped from one single one.
No, it's ripped
from a blend.
A lot of different shows from that era.
But, like...
We'll explain why.
I know...
later.
Yeah, I know...
what episode...
My mom really loved the Brady Bunch growing up, and so I've seen, like, a fair amount of the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Not enough to, like, know it super well, but, like, I grew up with it on. I know my dad's mom loved Leave It to Beaver. And so, like, sometimes she would have Leave It to Beaver on the background. Again, not enough for me to like have much knowledge on it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there's that. Like, shows these days, especially in the advent of streaming, don't have like intros. This show, just the brand of comedy. I think that Elizabeth Olsen is really good at this type of over traumatic, very like over enunciated, very over exaggerated type stuff. And so is Catherine Hahn. I don't know if I could watch an entire show like that is in this style, but for like a couple of episodes, it's really funny and really well done.
Wanda, or Scarlet Witch, was introduced in X-Men. In the comics, she's actually a mutant.
Yeah, she's Magneto's daughter.
Yes, which
I have tried to, because Scarlet Witch's background is like pretty complex.
Like,
so I tried to like at least do the SparkNotes version
so
of her story.
Her story, she's the one with the hex power. So the most powerful witch. But that's the weird part with the MCU. When she was introduced was before Disney had the rights to Fox.
Her story, yeah.
Because Fox had the mutants.
Well,
they had the X-Men.
Also, from what I was reading, that even within the comics, her story got a ton of different writers over time.
Because
and so it was just like really disjointed.
I think they're going after one of the newer ones where she was not born with it. So, like, Quicksilver, for example, has been mainly in the X-Men because Quicksilver, even in the comics, has always been a mutant partner with the X-Men to an extent. Besides when he was with the Brotherhood of Evil that Magneto ran.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't want to go like too deep because like that's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I was understanding, it got like really disjointed over time because there was a bunch of different writers.
It has,
and so like the stories are just bizarre. From what I was reading, some of like her stories are just like there is a lot.
Are weird.
From what I understand, a lot of what Wandavision does in the show references a large chunk of the comics.
Just with some of her abilities.
With the twins and with Agatha.
So, like, her twins in the comics are actually her twins. But I don't want to get into that too much yet.
But also, the first two episodes don't really go over this, but obviously we finished the show at this point.
Yeah.
But the comics, there's an allusion to her creating her own reality. And that's kind of what she's doing in the show.
Yeah, but we don't know that.
I know. Anyway, back to what we were saying, what I was saying. I genuinely love the comedic timing of the show. I think, or at least these episodes. The other episodes have their own brand of comedy just because they're referencing, like, in the later episodes, there's a reference to, like, the Modern Family, like, mockumentary style stuff. Like, there's references to whatever comedy fits in that era.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that. And like I said, I don't know if I could watch an entire season long of that like over the top campiness.
Yeah.
But it was really fun.
Okay, yeah.
I have notes that say like, when did they get married? Are they in hiding? Initially I thought like they were in hiding for whatever reason. I'm not sure why I thought that.
Yeah.
Because obviously at the start of the show we have absolutely no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah. We have no idea.
I quickly, after a few, like maybe 2 or 3 episodes, I was like, is this a Truman Show situation?
Yeah.
Which isn't completely off base.
Yeah.
I did clock Agnes as the villain.
I mean, she really, that's the thing.
Not in the first 2.
She really
but she was too nosy and she has too many very specific questions.
But, I mean, I wouldn't call her the true villain.
She is towards the end.
But she was just... We will come back to that when we get to that. So at this point,
we'll probably cover that maybe Thursday's episode. But I think more so, especially in the first episode, they were definitely referencing in sitcoms. There's a trope of like the noisy neighbor. Mm-hmm. So like Urkel,
that's what she was.
She was Urkel, or she was
Beaver.
Kimmy from Full House. Like that. And almost every one of those.
I want to call Kimmy.
Are you kidding?
No, but she was friends with them, though.
She was like GJ's best friend.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
And like the family hated her.
Yeah,
but like there was a trope in sitcoms of the noise or of the nosy neighbor.
Yeah.
That like, and she. The only reason I clocked her as the villain is she was asking a bunch of very specific questions of where they came from, who they are, but like. I don't know. She seemed a little, she seemed so over the top. It seemed a little suspicious to me.
Yeah. So we get introduced to her, and then we learn that there's a heart on their calendar for this day.
Yeah. And they're both like, what is it? And it's played off for laughs. Like, neither one of them can remember their anniversary.
Yeah, anniversary.
Someone's birthday.
Or something. And so we get to Vision's work. It's computer data.
And this is also another sitcom trope that, like, you never know what the husband does for a living.
I mean...
Because, like, usually the sitcoms, especially the old ones, were focused on what was going on in the home.
Yeah, true.
And so the husband's job didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I also think I don't necessarily think that particular joke is a reference to Friends, but there's a long-running joke about Chandler not, like, nobody knowing what Chandler does.
Yeah.
And...
I mean, it's the same thing in How I Met Your Mother with Barney.
Yeah, but it's like, it's referencing that trope.
Yeah.
I don't think it's specifically referencing Friends. I just think it's Friends is one that uses it.
How I Met Your Mother did it.
Because
Didn't they do it also in, like, I Love Lucy?
Yeah, they did it in most of them. Because the show didn't have enough runtime to dive into every single person's backstory.
Yeah.
It was just the task at hand.
Yeah, so we learn that the heart is for his boss, Mr. Hartman.
Which is such a weird... Like, I don't know why they didn't just... I get that it's a funny scene, don't get me wrong. I mean, but, like, I don't know why they didn't just say, like, right on the calendar, like, dinner with the Hartmans.
I mean, it also...
That's what I would have done.
That's something that, like, I Love Lucy would have done.
It's the classic trope of, like, misunderstanding. They really tap into a lot of tropes.
Yeah.
Which is funny, but it gets tedious after a while.
But also, with how the show is, at this point, we think the show is just staying in this era.
Exactly. That's
But also, I mean, that's how the shows were back then.
That's kind of what I initially thought, was that this whole show was framed this way. Mm-hmm. And I was very confused because I have seen GIFs or not clips, but like GIFs and stuff like that of this show that are in color.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm confused. Like, when does it turn into color? And I get it now because I've seen the whole thing. But it makes sense. But when I was in it, I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, so we get the first commercial.
Which is for the Stark Industries toaster. Which, there's a couple of interesting things here.
Yeah.
So, first of all, Stark Industries. And
I think this is the only Stark Industries commercial. I think the rest of them are Hydra.
But also, isn't, at least in the era of, like, Captain America, like, the 40s and 50s, wasn't Howard mostly making, like, convenience products? I'm pretty sure
he was a engineer.
I imagine they probably had a line of, like, home things.
I mean, they probably did. I mean...
So, something, I didn't personally notice this, but I watched a video of someone doing, like, Easter eggs, and they mentioned that the sound of the toaster warming up is the same sound of Iron Man's repulsors. Which the technology would be the same.
No.
Or it was Wanda's subconscious, because she's heard that sound so many times.
But we don't know that yet.
I mean, just in hindsight, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Also, this is the first instance of color.
For a brief second.
It's a tiny little light. But everything is in black and white, which I don't think we mentioned. But everything is in black and white.
I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah.
It's I Love Lucy.
But that's the only color.
Yeah.
And
in every episode,
there's more and more color.
No, there's one thing in each episode that's colored.
Until we actually get full color at the end of episode 2.
Yeah. No, we don't have full color at the end of episode 2.
I'm sure we do.
I think the 3rd.
Also, so apparently it was a trope in sci-fi movies. Anything that had like a robot, a sentient robot or anything like that, they would derogatorily refer to the robot as a toaster.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
And so that like is an interesting little like nod.
I don't think they would.
I don't necessarily, but it is an interesting.
I mean, they're not. They're referencing the toaster because it's
a toaster. I know.
Yeah,
but
they're not referencing Star Trek to do that though.
No, I'm just saying
sci-fi.
it was a common thing for sci-fi to refer to robots as toasters.
Okay, but it would.
I'm not saying
it was
that's
just a toaster. I think it's just a toaster. I don't think that they're referencing anything.
So basically, the Hartmans are coming over for dinner.
So Wanda doesn't know, so she gets Agatha to come over.
And she's like struggling to make this 4-course meal, which I have helped with making Thanksgiving dinner before, and it's like insanity.
Where she got everything mixed up. She was trying to use magic to cook.
Binging with Babish has a whole episode on this whole entire meal.
Nice.
Which is really fun. None of the food sounds particularly appetizing, and I'm a foodie, so like
Wanda and Agatha all day are brainstorming ideas on how to surprise Vision. So she's in like some nightgown and surprises Hartman.
I love and they're trying to cover it up, and Vision's like, it's a Sokovian tradition.
Yeah, and so.
Their name is Mr. and Mrs. Hart. It's not Hartman.
Mr. and Mrs. Hart. But I do like Mrs. Hart though.
The mom is played by
I cannot remember her name.
She's the mom in That 70s Show though.
Yeah, which
she's the mom in a lot of stuff.
And she's also going to be the grandma in That 90s Show.
It's the same franchise though. But like she's the mom in a lot of things.
Yeah, they're bringing her and Red back. I cannot remember his name in real life. I cannot remember either one of their names. But
like they keep asking them like badgering questions about like, when did you get married? Are you gonna have children?
And they cannot answer a single question.
Which again harkens back to that whole like backstory wasn't clarified in sitcoms because like they just didn't have time. And Mr. Hart starts choking.
Yeah, because he's just constantly like not berating, like not yelling, but more of like berating them for like. When
do you
guys
think
get
Wanda
married?
did that on purpose? Made him choke on purpose?
I don't think so because she was surprised.
Maybe she was acting.
I don't think so.
Or would they have made it more obvious?
I think they would have made it more obvious. I mean, when you talk and chew at the same time, there's a chance to choke. Anyway.
Well, and it was also when Vision took the piece out, it was like a big hunk of meat.
Yeah, and like so the Miss Hart.
Our 16 or 17-month-old knows to chew better than that.
No, but he was also like berating them at the same time.
Yeah, I know.
And so, Ms. Hart is just saying stop it over and over.
Yeah.
And then she's like, go help Vision. And then Vision gets up and goes saves him. And then pretty much they say their goodbyes and he says, we'll talk Monday about your promotion. And there's a scene where Wanda and Vision are sitting on the couch and they realize they don't have wedding rings. And I love this scene because they just she just makes them wedding rings. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know, they're sweet. Yeah.
It's those scenes, it's like the scene in, is it Civil War where they're cooking together? I'm pretty sure it's Civil War where they're cooking together, and it's just...
Yeah, beginning of Civil War.
Yeah.
Beginning of Civil War.
Because Vision's keeping her in the camp.
Yeah, it's when Hawkeye gets her.
Yeah, I love those little moments, and even in Endgame, or is it Infinity War, where they're in Scotland together.
Infinity War.
They're just I just love their just really sweet moments.
Yeah, and then
we pan out, and the show ends, and it's end credits, and then we figure out that there's somebody in modern day watching, and it's in color, and the aspect ratio changes.
Yeah, and then all that we see is a logo, which I'm not going to go into yet.
Oh, I know.
And we just see someone writing down notes.
And
that's the end of the episode.
This is where I immediately go, is this the Truman Show?
Yeah.
Which, if you are one of the 5 people on the planet that have never seen that movie, get on that.
It's similar to Hunger Games. It's
there is
just
a fan
people
theory
watching.
that the
Yeah.
Truman Show is the precursor to the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But that movie is incredible. Okay, so episode 2, Don't Touch That Tile. It opens with a cold open of them sleeping in separate beds, which again
is I Love Lucy-ish, or kind of like I Love Lucy.
Until about like the 60s, couples weren't depicted as sleeping in separate beds because it was like we didn't want to imply anything.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre in hindsight when you think about it through a modern lens, but I guess it's like nobody thought about it at the time.
Yeah.
There's some kind of noise happening in the neighborhood.
Or it's right outside.
Yeah.
It's right outside.
I remember there being, and anybody listening to this that are older than me that might remember this episode better, but there's an episode of The Brady Bunch that is like plays out almost identically to this. That somehow I remember this from watching it with my mom as a kid.
I think I've seen maybe one episode of Brady Bunch.
But they're like this whole scene just really reminds me of this one episode of The Brady Bunch where like they hear something outside.
Yeah.
And the intro is straight up ripped from Bewitched.
Yeah. This one is Bewitched, so we're in what, the 60s at this point?
I think my mom watched Bewitched when she was like little.
I think Bewitched was 60s.
Like my mom was born in the mid 60s, so that would make sense.
Yeah, Bewitched was 60s. Because I think TV got color in like the 70s. Because I know in Australia they got color in like 71.
I'm pretty sure, like, I'm pretty sure the color TV was a thing in the early 60s, but it wasn't as readily available.
Yeah, because it took special cameras.
No, I mean, like, color TVs, like, in homes weren't as readily available.
Yeah.
Because I remember my dad telling me that both my parents were born in the mid-60s, and my dad says that he watched the moon landing on a black and white TV. They didn't get a color TV until like 70s.
I think because, I mean, even the only reason I know when Australia did it is because I just watched a video of like some like not stand-up comedy show, but like some sort of like sitcom comedy, and they were freaking out going in color because they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And it was like September. I could be wrong. I think it was like September 30th. 1971 or something like. I know it's 1971. I just don't remember the month or year.
Yeah.
Or month or day.
So basically, Vision and Wanda have been like roped into this like neighborhood talent show.
And we see the Cabinet of Mysteries.
Which, did you notice the image that was on the front of the cabinet?
You would have to refresh my memory.
It looks like the Mind Stone that's on Vision's forehead.
I wouldn't say that it looks like the Mind Stone.
Doesn't it? It's the same shape.
All the stones are that shape. All the stones are that shape, dear.
I don't know.
All 6 are the same shape. They're all stones besides Ooblex. Besides the reality stone, they're all rounded.
There's some kind of commotion, and Wanda goes outside and she picks up a toy helicopter that is in color.
Yep, the only color in this episode. And if you can tell, it's a toy helicopter from that era.
From the era that the show is supposed to be set in, or our
Wanda's era.
I didn't notice that. I just kind of.
Which they go more into.
It just seems like episodes. A normal toy helicopter to me.
So.
I don't. Maybe I'm just not well versed enough.
No.
Toy helicopters.
So, you learn that later, or you learn that in the episode that's about the outside.
Yeah. So she meets up with Agnes, or I guess Agnes just shows up.
Because they were going to use the rabbit.
Yeah.
They want to use the rabbit in the display.
Agnes has this really bizarre interaction with the mailman that is like very sitcom-y. Like in a way that was just like it didn't feel it didn't feel genuine. It felt really, the only way I can describe it is sitcom-y. It felt very scripted.
But they are technically.
I get it. I get where they're going. It just like it felt like a very odd moment.
Yeah. I get that.
It kind of, the best way I can describe it is, again, going back to the Truman Show, is when there are those moments in the Truman Show where like two of the actors, for lack of a better word, are talking to each other, and it's like they're doing this like super forced tone in their voice.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
Which makes sense in hindsight, but like watching it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
So they go to meet up with what I call in my notes.
Did you notice the symbol that was on the helicopter?
Yeah, there was a sword logo.
Okay.
So they meet up with what I refer to in my notes as the Stepford Wives, because that's like the best way to
At the country club.
Country club.
Okay.
What was her name? Dottie. She also reminded me of the main mean lady from The Help.
Yeah.
She's played by the blonde chick from Pitch Perfect.
Okay. That's the same actor. That's not the same actress.
Yes, it is. It's Anna Camp. She's like the main She's like the main mean girl in The Help. Like she's like the super.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Dottie. Never mind.
No. I was talking. She just reminds me of.
Okay, I thought you were talking about Dottie.
No.
It's who? Okay, never mind. Never mind.
So then Vision. So basically, they're going to the meeting with the Stepford Wives to discuss the plans for the talent show, and it's for the children. And meanwhile, Vision goes to the neighborhood watch meeting.
So this is from episode 1, when Wanda jokes my husband and his indestructible head.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, but I felt like it was a very obvious fact.
Not everyone has seen Wandavision.
She
makes that joke.
If you're listening to this episode, I guarantee you've seen it.
Yeah, true. No, so the indestructible head joke is Wanda's head, or Vision's head, got crushed in.
Yeah.
Which I think that's kind of funny.
I thought that was obvious.
Okay, let's go back to the current episode.
So, Vision is at this neighborhood watch meeting that basically turns into a giant gossip fest.
Yes, so the show is based off of, this episode is Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, is what this episode is based off of.
I think we're showing our age with this, because
I've seen both shows, what do you mean?
well, to be fair, your mom also likes this kind of stuff, so you probably grew up with it. I mean, I grew up with, my mom, like I said, my mom really liked the Brady Bunch. But, we didn't watch it, it's not like we watched it constantly. I have some vague memories of watching it. She would watch reruns on TV or whatever, but. So, Vision is with the neighborhood watch meeting, and he's just, not behaving he's behaving like he's onto something, almost.
Yeah.
He accuses somebody of being a communist.
Yeah.
Which I feel is very of the time. 50s, 60s. I feel people... Obviously, I was not alive then, but I feel a lot of people were just doing that.
Yeah, but Vision said it jokingly.
Yeah. So one of the guys offers him a piece of gum, and he swallows it.
Yes.
Which makes him act drunk for some reason.
Because it's clogging his systems.
There is, a really interesting little, animated
which I think that is I Love Jeannie. Or I'm thinking of
Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah. I think that's what that is.
I mean, I know Bewitched did that sometimes, too.
Yeah. I mean, Bewitched and...
Because Bewitched had, an animated scene, opening sequence.
Yeah. But I Dream of Jeannie is just taking inspirations from shows like...
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about... I forgot to mention this in the first...
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they did a lot of the effects, so, the plates flying through the air...
Yeah.
It's all practical.
Mm-hmm.
In reference to... some of the Bewitched and stuff like that. They did it all on wires and things of that nature, which I thought was really cool. And the only thing that was modern day computer animated effects was Vision morphing and getting the thing out of his throat.
So you probably missed this, but at the beginning of the episode when they're in the supermarket, there's 2 ads. One is Bova
It was
Milk.
in the video that I watched.
Yeah, so Bova Milk is reference to a talking cow who was a...
Yeah, I heard this.
Wanda's mom's midwife in the comics. Auntie A is reference to Agatha.
Yeah.
In the comics.
That was in one of the Easter egg videos that I watched.
Yeah.
They referenced that. I find that Bova thing, bizarre.
But also, in the comics...
I know she's a mutant, but, just the way that
I wasn't even going to say that.
She's talking to Dottie, and Dottie, seems to be a little bit sketchy. And she, kind of glitches out and she breaks a glass, and that's the second instance of color in this episode.
She breaks because we hear someone talking through the radio.
So the radio is playing a song. It's a song. I think it's by the Beastie Boys.
It would not be Beastie Boys.
Beach Boy. I always get those two mixed up.
Beastie Boys of our era. Maybe
The
80s.
Beach Boys.
Probably.
There's a song that by the Beach Boys called "Come On, Wanda."
Yeah.
And the song keeps glitching back and forth between the song and
someone
talking and someone saying "Come on, Wanda,"
which
I think is incredibly clever.
is breaking Dawn, essentially.
And she breaks a glass and there's blood in her hand, which frankly I think looks more like ketchup than blood to me, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I also think that might be a interesting sitcom thing because like sitcoms weren't allowed to ratings wise show gore, and so a lot of the times they would use like even in old movies like even Psycho they use chocolate syrup for blood, like
because
ratings.
It was not because of ratings. It was because
the viscosity.
Yeah.
Matthew's like a huge Hitchcock buff.
So it flowed more like it was watered down chocolate syrup, where it flowed more like blood.
I do know the toilet thing was because of ratings.
Toilet was because of ratings, and we don't actually see her get stabbed. Is because of.
But I do think that
MPAA or whatever it is.
That is a very interesting thing. It probably wasn't intentional, but to me personally, it didn't look like blood. It looked too viscous to be blood.
Yeah, they should.
It was like the texture of like acrylic paint or ketchup.
Yeah, but also at that time they couldn't show someone bleeding.
In what the era was referenced, or what the show was referenced.
Yeah, they couldn't show at that time someone bleeding. So
I mean, blood would have never been on a sitcom. I mean, I remember an episode of Brady Bunch where one of the kids gets hit in the nose, and like her nose is bleeding. But like even then, they just like pretended her nose was bleeding. There wasn't actually like she was just like doing like she was like lifting her face up. There was no actual blood.
Yeah, being able to show blood in TV, I think that's more of a newer thing.
Sorry, I did not mean to go off on a tangent about blood.
I'm gonna look that up actually.
I just thought it was interesting because like I'm so used to when I watch things looking at like inconsistencies and continuity errors and stuff because that's just like what I find really interesting. And I at first thought it was a mistake, but like they lingered on it too long and the color was too significant that I was like, if they were going for real blood, they would have just done it. You know what I mean?
Yes. I don't even know what I would.
Anyway,
and then so
the radio's talking to her, and we get a ad for Strucker watches.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember who Strucker is?
He's the guy who basically made Wanda and Pietro.
Yes.
And we see him in the for first time in the end credits of Winter Soldier.
Yes. So Baron Strucker. Never mind. I was thinking of someone else.
Who are you thinking of?
Baron Zemo.
They have the same first name, don't they?
Baron is a title.
Baron can be a name.
They do not have the same name. It's the title.
I did not make that connection. I just assumed it was name.
So, Baron Zemo, we've seen Zemo in MCU. I know I'm going on a slight tangent.
He's the guy in Civil War.
Yes. So,
in the world.
Yes, so in the comics, the first Baron Zemo was a Captain America villain. And his son sort of took up the mantle in Hydra.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of changed that for Civil War.
I don't really have anything to add other than the fact that it is a very clear Hydra reference, and it's a very obvious reference. In hindsight, it's probably that she was subconsciously thinking of things that were significant to her, and like obviously Strucker is a pretty significant point in time. So anyway, back to that. Vision is acting drunk because of the gum, and this is when we get that animated sequence of his gears.
Yeah. The second time we've seen the animated gears.
Initially, I thought it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I learned that it was a direct reference to the sitcom it was referencing, it makes a little more sense. But within the context of the show, it felt strange.
Yes.
But I get why they did it. It just so he starts floating, Vision does, and Wanda has to quickly make it look like practical.
Yeah. Where everything she does makes...
He accidentally lifts a piano with magic, and so she has to make it look like cardboard.
Mm-hmm. And then...
Frankly, I think it's like, Wanda is really good at thinking on her feet.
And then, Herb...
I think that's...
Is it Herb?
The larger black man?
No, not larger black man. The, white dude with the mustache, the one that was, like, playing the piano before. What's his name?
Is that Norm?
Norm. Norm says something like, that was my grandmother's piano or something.
Is it Norm, or is it the guy that gets fired?
Norm.
Yeah. I think Norm is, Dottie's husband. Or is the guy that gets fired Dottie's husband?
No, Dottie's husband is Norm.
Editing Sarah here. Just for clarification, Norm is the guy who is Vision's co-worker and is not Dottie's husband. However, a man named Phil, who is the guy who gets fired in the first episode of WandaVision, is Dottie's husband. Sorry for the mix-up. It's a little bit confusing. There's a lot of characters.
He makes his top hat go through him. He just, like, uses a button. Like, that one she can't really explain.
The mirror. She uses, like, a mirror somehow
Yeah.
to make it look like...
I do think that Wanda has a real skill of making, like, it's like really, she has a real skill of, like, thinking on her feet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a skill many people possess.
Yeah.
I think she's really, she's been good at that the entire time we've known her. Oh, Geraldine?
Mm-hmm.
So Geraldine is the younger black woman.
Yeah.
And we don't know at this point who she is, really.
No, not at all. We first see her at the charity event, at the country club.
The Stepford Wives meeting.
Sure.
But yeah. She's just like with all the ladies.
Yeah. Which seems like they're the only ladies in the town.
Well, also, an interesting thing is the entire time they're talking about it's 4 of the children, yet we've not seen a single child.
Yeah.
And even, like, you would think in a real town there would be, like, kids riding their bikes or throwing a football in the front yard or, like, you know, walking to and from school or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's not a single child, which I think is telling.
Yeah.
It did, that I caught on to that during her and Agnes's conversation about, like, the bunny and the mailman weird interaction.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was very Truman Show, because Truman Show is a very similar... They make Geraldine appear...
And then she's freaking out, because she was in the back getting stuff ready.
Yeah, and she starts getting suspicious because she doesn't understand how she got in the box.
Yes.
Because, like, if you're unaware about how these, like, magic boxes work, is like there's like a secret panel where you like the assistant will stand in the back, and the wardrobe will basically like reveal them.
Yeah.
Sorry to spoil the secret for you, but like, so she doesn't understand how she got in it.
Yeah.
Which you can kind of see this like look on her face that she's clearly not playing well.
Yeah.
So Wanda takes the gum out.
Yeah, so she figures out what's going on with Vision. He says he ate something, and so she, like, can see through him and has him throw the gum out.
I do think that her trying to make this talent show go really well is her way of trying to deflect suspicion. Because...
Or there's no suspicion yet.
Well, because Dottie had that glitch, and then there's Geraldine.
But Dottie didn't know that she had that glitch.
I know. I'm just saying, like, she was trying to, like, make sure everything is still...
Mm-hmm.
And that there were some weird vibes with Agatha.
Yeah.
She's Agnes right now.
Agnes.
We don't know she's Agatha. Sorry. Yeah. I've been calling her Agatha this whole time. So they win an award, and we go back to the house, and we figure out that Wanda is pregnant.
Yeah. And then...
She's, like, her belly is, like, too big for just finding out she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And so that's a little weird.
And then...
They hear the sound again and go outside.
Yeah.
And someone climbs out of the sewer dressed in a beekeeper uniform.
And then she says no.
And the show rewinds and then magically turns to color.
Or slowly from the ground up.
Yeah.
Or no, it goes around. It goes around the room.
Yeah, I love the shot of, like, it's a close-up of Vision's hand and it's slowly turning red.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I clocked possible Truman Show situation.
Yeah.
I kind of thought it at the end of the first episode, but this is definitely where I was like, This is definitely the moment in the Truman Show where the light falls from the sky.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? Like, what is this? And that's what I thought was happening here. I thought it was like a PA that came on set and nobody was supposed to be outside.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. I'm still a little, even after finishing the show, I'm still a little confused as to why he's a beekeeper.
I'll explain it. I'll explain it in a...
Okay. And maybe I'm just not remembering correctly.
I'll re-explain
I do somewhat wish that we might have recorded
this a lot closer to when we watched.
No, like, we watched 2 episodes, then we recorded, watched 2 episodes, then recorded. I wish we kind of did it that structure, just because there is just, I wish I had a little bit of the speculation. Now I can kind of, I've seen the whole show, so I can see the full picture.
Yeah.
I guess it's not that big of a deal, but I really liked the first 2 episodes of the show. For a modern show to be doing all of these references to old sitcoms, which I frankly think that our society has moved so far past, that I really just think that was so interesting. It's such a good homage.
Yes.
And our society has definitely gone into more of like the higher production. Look at literally this show. Like, they've gone into higher production, higher, like Game of Thrones, like movie level for a TV show. And that's just like not how it used to be.
Yes.
And I really like how they even shot these episodes like the shows that they're referencing.
Yes.
And I think it was a really interesting concept.
It's a really good show. I really do like it. I wish I watched it when it first came out.
Yeah, I mean, you finished it before we watched it.
Mm-mm.
You didn't?
No.
I thought, I could have sworn you did.
I started it a long time ago.
But you knew everything that happened.
Yes. I know what happens in all of the shows.
Yeah.
I know what happens. But I
You
don't
read
know.
like the Spark Notes versions.
Yes. But I don't know all of the details. I know just enough to get by.
I really like this show purely for the reason that I just think it is so unique to anything that is like on at all.
Yeah.
I just think the way that it's framed, and I think it becomes a little bit different once you start introducing like the modern day outside world.
Mm-hmm.
I think it becomes an entirely different show.
Yes.
Which,
we learn a lot more.
as much as I like Agent Wu and Darcy,
You are spoiling.
I know.
Majorly. So let's hold off on.
I wish they what I'm saying is, I wish they would have saved that for later. I know, but I wish they would have like left it to the last 2 episodes. Is what I meant. I wish we were left in the dark a little bit more. Is what I'm trying to say.
We're left in the dark until episode 7. Is when we learn about everything that.
Really, it was episode 7.
Yes, like we see
It felt
Wu and
way-
Darcy,
It felt way earlier.
we
than
see
that.
them in episode 4, but we don't know the full picture until episode 7.
Yeah,
Because we learn.
I wish we waited even longer than that. It was episode 4 though. I'm not sure how they would have done it. I did really, really enjoy, especially the first 2 episodes. I enjoyed the campiness.
Yeah.
I enjoyed, the really subtle touches to old sitcoms and
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Because at this point, we'll be going into not more modern, but more of shows that we would have watched when we were little. At this point,
Like Full House.
Full House, Brady
Yeah.
Bunch,
Yeah.
all of that.
And I mean, of course, I like the fashion. I think I love this era of fashion too. I think it's really fun. And I don't know. I like a lot of the lamp shading of things.
Yeah.
Do you know what lamp shading is?
Nope.
It's like referencing. It's like a knee in the ribs of like, haha, like.
Okay.
Editing Sarah here. I realized I didn't do a very good job of explaining what lamp shading is. So the dictionary definition of lamp shading is acknowledging a shortcoming in your plot through some kind of dialogue, usually a joke, as a way of winking at the audience and moving on. Marvel actually lampshades quite a bit. You just got to know when to look for it. But yeah, it happens a lot of the MCU.
Like I said, I think really what it comes down to is just this is such a unique framing device for a show,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoyed that.
The Defenders on Netflix, the Marvel series on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
like
Jessica Jones.
Daredevil,
Yeah.
Jessica Jones, all
Yeah,
that.
I know what you're talking about.
Did a sort of similar stuff with their TV shows. I feel like they were the practice runs for Fox.
Well, because when they did the Defender series, Disney Plus wasn't a thing.
Disney didn't even own Fox yet at that time.
Yeah.
No, Disney didn't even own. They owned Marvel, but the Defenders somehow were owned by Fox.
But I think that.
I think it was Fox and Sony.
So join us tomorrow for episodes 3 and 4
of
WandaVision, and join us the whole rest of the week until Friday.
Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to send us any feedback or any messages, you can follow us over on Instagram at thefanclub_podcast or on Twitter at fanclub_podcast. Or you can discuss each episode with us over on our subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/thefanclubpodcast. And make sure that you tune in every Marvel Monday.